Welcome to our final module in the course, Module 6, where we're looking at global science education. So this is our final one. You've been through all of the modules now, so at the end of this module you will have completed all the content that you need for the course. Now these last two units, in particular this one, I think are so important because they tie together a lot of really critical issues to give us a bit of a big picture idea about why we've been learning all those individual aspects about the nature of science and the history of science, etc. So we're going to look at global science education in this particular unit. So what is global education and why is it important? And how does global education encompass science? How do we bring science in? So that's what we're going to explore. So what is global education? Well, it's a major objective of our new Australian curriculum, but we do know as 21st century Australians we're members of a global community which is connected to the world by ties of culture, economics and politics, enhanced communication and travel, and a shared environment. So enabling young people to participate in shaping a better shared future for the world is at the heart of a global education. So it emphasises the unity and interdependence of human society, developing a sense of self and appreciation of cultural diversity, and affirmation of social justice and human rights, building peace and actions for a sustainable future. So you can see that it's an all-encompassing objective. So it's tying together all the bits of education to say, well, if we want to be global citizens, what are the sorts of things and the sorts of attributes that we need our students to have? Why is it important? Well, global education promotes open-mindedness, leading to new thinking about the world and a predisposition to take action for change. So it tends to highlight some of the more activist agendas that are happening in the world. So you probably see in the media a lot, lots of marches and protests and things, and global education is giving students the tools to understand that sometimes the status quo or accepting the way the situation is at present is sometimes not always acceptable to many sections of our community. So students learn to take responsibility for their actions, respect and value diversity, and see themselves as global citizens who can contribute to a more peaceful, just and sustainable world. So they're the overriding sorts of principles, but where does science fit into that? So with its emphasis not only on developing knowledge and skills, but also on promoting positive values and participation, global education is relevant across all of our learning areas, including science. So I want to look at the attributes of a global citizen because we would hope that you would be trying to develop that in your own students in the classroom. But we're just going to have a quick look at this clip to start about a global citizen.
The challenges we face are diverse, but they concern us all. We need global solutions, but where do we find them? Education teaches us to read, write, and count. That's important, but is it enough? Because individual actions now have a global impact, we have to change the way we think and act. What if education was transformative? What if education encouraged us to care for our world and for those with whom we share it? What if education taught us about peace, protecting our environment, human rights, respect, cultural diversity, justice? What if education gave us the skills we need to answer the big questions of the day, to find solutions to the interconnected challenges of the 21st century? Global citizenship education. It gives us the keys to a more just, peaceful, tolerant, and inclusive world.
Okay, so let's have a look at some of those attributes of a global citizen. So they're a student or a person who are aware of the wider world and have a sense of their own role as a world citizen. They respect and value diversity, have an understanding of how the world works, is passionately committed to social justice, participates in the community at a range of levels from the local to the global, works with others to make the world a more equitable and sustainable place, and takes responsibility for their actions. So these are some of the attributes that we want to develop within school education. And science is a great way or a great platform to help develop many of those attributes. So why teach science with a global citizenship approach? So what are some of the benefits to your students? Well, one, probably the primary one, is it increases interest and enjoyment in science lessons. Okay, students are interested in real-world issues, and this is a key way of engaging them in those. It deepens understanding of scientific concepts by applying them to real-life contexts, so they can start to see why learning about energy efficiency actually counts when they're looking at countries where their primary stores of energy have been completely depleted. It also provides opportunities to consider the contributions to science from other cultures, so linking into some of those earlier modules we did about Indigenous knowledge, and how to use scientific knowledge when making decisions about the applications of science. And that one you can see links into our decision-making module. Benefits to teachers. Well, it motivates students to deepen and expand their knowledge and understanding of scientific concepts and ways of working. It engages students by demonstrating the relevance of science in tackling local and global challenges, and it provides a holistic approach to teaching and learning rather than an extra demand on curricular time. So we don't want you to have to add this in on top. We'd like you to try and think about how you would teach your scientific concepts through this type of approach. So here's an activity for you, one of your last activities you're going to do in the course, and to think about, are you a global citizen? So we've talked about the attributes, but do you actually exhibit any of them? And what could you do to develop that in yourself a little bit more? How could you inspire your students to act as global citizens? What context for learning could you choose? Now, I've put a reading there. It's entitled Science and Global Citizenship, and it gives you a lot of great ideas about ways that you can do this within the science context. It's got lots of website links, topic links, so have a read over that and then see if you can answer some of those questions and share your views on the discussion board. So let's have a look at some global initiatives, and these Sustainable Development Goals are really quite new. They're global goals that are aiding to basically have a call to action to end poverty, protect our planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So let's have a quick look at them.
What are the SDGs? In 2015, world leaders from 193 countries agreed the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The world's new action plan for the next 15 years to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, fight inequality, tackle climate change and achieve sustainable development for all. The SDGs follow the Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs, agreed in 2000 in a global coordinated attempt to tackle development issues. As a result, the number of people living in extreme poverty has declined by more than half compared to 1990. More girls and boys go to primary school than ever before, and far more people have access to water and essential medicines. But progress of the MDGs has been mixed. Today, over 800 million people still live in extreme poverty. They are also most vulnerable to the increasing impacts from climate change and environmental degradation. Years of hard-won progress fighting poverty could easily be wiped out by even small conflicts, economic crises, or natural disasters. Also, sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia consistently achieved less progress than other regions. The MDGs measured success on national averages, often missing what happened with marginalised groups like people with disabilities, indigenous groups, rural communities, and women. The international community recognised the new challenges and that human prosperity must go hand in hand with protecting the planet. After a 3-year participatory process, world leaders finally adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So what are these goals for? They are end poverty for all, freedom from hunger, health and well-being, quality of education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, sustainable energy for all, decent work and economic development, innovation and resilient infrastructure, reducing inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, sustainable consumption and production, action on climate change, healthy oceans, sustainable ecosystems, peace and justice, global partnerships. There are 4 underlying principles that come with the SDGs and that are transformational in the way we work on development in the future. Firstly, the SDGs are universal. They apply to every country, rich and poor, north and south, developed and developing. They recognise that global challenges like tackling climate change and changing models of development require global solutions. Domestic policies that look at these issues in one country will have an impact on other parts of the world, so we need to coordinate. Secondly, they integrate all dimensions of sustainability: economic development, social progress, and environmental protection. For example, they tell us to grow enough food for all without destroying the soil or overusing water, to develop our economies without increasing inequality, or to produce enough electricity for all without pumping more CO2 into the atmosphere. This is similar to what Pope Francis says in his encyclical. We are faced not with 2 separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. The SDGs tell us we should leave no one behind. Governments have agreed no goal should be met unless it is met for everyone, including those in society most vulnerable and hardest to reach. So education must reach Indigenous communities, jobs created for women and men, quality healthcare available for all rural communities, and water and sanitation facilities accessible for people living with disabilities. Tackling exclusion is the key to tackling inequality. And finally, the SDGs require the participation of all. The process to agree the SDGs took years and included national dialogues, consultations with civil society groups, the private sector and academia, and ended with negotiations between all governments at the UN. There's a strong sense of ownership of these goals. The result is ambitious, but it reflects what the world wants. Today, the implementation of the SDGs requires ongoing participation at a national and local level. All stakeholders have a role towards their successful achievement. Taken together with the Paris Climate Change Agreement and the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si', the SDGs provide a new framework for approaching sustainable development.
Well, that was a fairly lengthy clip, a little under 6 minutes, but it really gave a very comprehensive overview of the 17 goals. So you can see them here, and obviously they are very ambitious, but there is a large degree of agreement and collaboration between many different government organisations and private enterprise, as well as religious groups, as you could see from some references within that clip. So the goals are all interconnected, but the key to success will involve tackling issues more commonly associated with each other. So we can't, change poverty, without looking at our energy sources, or we can't, look at quality education without thinking about, gender equality. Are girls allowed to or entitled to an education? In some countries, they're not. So these are key issues we need to think about, and key issues I want you to think about when we approach your portfolio item number 6, which we're going to look at next. So our second last portfolio item, I'm going to talk about it in this unit and not at the end of the module because it links so directly to what we've been talking about here. So we've examined numerous aspects of science as a human endeavour throughout this course. Module 6 has provided a big picture perspective of the role of science in global contexts and many of the challenges we face as a society in attempting to address these issues. So what I want you to do is to select a global science issue, and some ideas for that come from the slide before and those some of the perspectives in that clip, and also the reading for this unit has lots of ideas about topics. I want you to design a mini PowerPoint presentation, so similarly as you did to, I think it was item 2, It's going to be 10 to 12 slides approximately to outline the main components of the issue. I want you to address a relevant ACARA content descriptor and elaboration in your presentation. So you need to go through sort of those years 7 to 10 and check science as a human endeavour, specifically that strand, and look for one that is actually going to be relevant to your PowerPoint presentation. Make sure you include a reference to this descriptor and elaboration on your first slide. Remember, ensure your content is age appropriate, so it's pitched at that years 7 to 10, and make sure it's scientifically accurate. And remember, we do have our Designing Effective PowerPoint Presentations presentation in the course introduction module, and I'm going to show a couple of examples now from previous years. Okay, so this student looked at deforestation, and you can see here has the ACARA content descriptor, no elaboration though, and also you might want to note that this is not a science as a human endeavour content descriptor, it's a science understanding one, so it's more related to the content. So you may be best to try and find one that's a science as a human endeavour content descriptor. Okay, so if we go through the next slide, it's embedded a little sort of hyperlink to a video there. Nice use of pictures here, some general information about the issue. We've got, why is this an issue? So not just the deforestation and the ecosystems, but actually tying those together. A real world example, we've got a bit of a quote. Another example from Canada. What can be done? I like the sort of use of text there. What's going to happen if we take on those aspects on board? Can we fix the issue? So sort of understanding the complexities. And then some really useful links there to websites. So that's quite good. Here's another example. This one's on water vulnerability. They've attempted to put the descriptor on the front there, but I would prefer you to actually write out the actual descriptor and elaboration, not just put the reference number, because I don't actually know what that actually will relate to. So this is a nice little overview what we're going to be doing today. Actually, they've included it there, the descriptor and the elaboration. Nice mix of text and information there, graphics, who has access to clean water, so giving the global feel for what the issue is. Just watch your formatting, you don't want to be tending to leave the spaces. Okay, nice and simple but direct. Again, the tone of this presentation sort of encourages interaction. Possible answers, you could perhaps elaborate on those a bit more. That's probably not quite enough text to include there. Some links to YouTube clips, which is good. Fast facts. What can we do? Some possible solutions. And some references, just 3. So not bad. Not a bad one, but you know, possibly could benefit from a little bit more information, but quite well presented. And finally, just checking on our task sheet, what we've been doing every time. We're going to go to portfolio item 6, global science education. So there's our blurb we just went through. It's marked out of 7.5 marks and addresses all 3 criteria. So let's have a look here. A highly accurate, detailed summary of the selected global issue, an accurate identification of relevant ACARA descriptor and elaboration. So on that first PowerPoint presentation I showed you, that one would have been marked down a little bit because the relevancy of that descriptor, because it was from the science understanding instead of the science as a human endeavour strand, would have pushed that back a little bit. But definitely there's 2 components to that. It's having a nice detailed summary that's accurate of the actual issue and also identifying the Australian curriculum information. A highly visually effective, scientifically accurate and age-appropriate PowerPoint presentation which addresses the topic comprehensively. So the last one I just showed you, that one didn't really address the topic comprehensively. Okay, it developed it basically addressed the set topic, but it didn't do it very comprehensively. There were areas there where they could have actually just included a bit more information. And then critical analysis of material from numerous websites, 5+. So again, that last one I showed you only had 3. And the first one had more than 5, and they actually had that little annotated, they had the heading, the title, they had the hyperlink, and then they had just a tiny little sentence or blurb. That was quite good. Interpretations of evidence presented in an innovative manner. That again comes down to the presentation, that use of the questioning throughout the PowerPoint, the interactivity, and also the explicit referencing at the end. Okay.